Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Pleasure Points Podcast. I'm your host, James Rohr. I am an acupuncturist, a love and dating coach, a guy who's basically obsessed with flow and the free, easy moving of energies to help people live the life that they want to live. So this podcast, I'm returning with part 3 of When Ghosts Speak. So if you are new to the podcast, I've been having some experiences where I feel like I'm channeling some entities that are coming down and they're talking to me mostly about love, but the conversation kind of moves in a lot of different directions. Now, is this just me giving myself permission to tap into a higher state of consciousness and to be in a state of flow? Perhaps, totally down with that. I don't really care what it is, but my experience is it's like the lighting in the room changes and all of a sudden there's a couple of energy beings that weren't there before that, take shape in front of me and they just start talking to me. So I feel like I'm much more of transcribing the experience than anything else. And so I've been sharing a couple of episodes of When Ghosts Speak is what I've called it. This is going to be part 3. They take a deeper dive into this concept of time and we talk a little bit about heartache and love and all of these amazing concepts. So forgive me for the reading part. I'm just relaying the message as it was downloaded to me. I promise I'll get back to interviews, but you guys seem to be enjoying this, so thank you for the feedback and for the encouragement, and I'll keep on delivering content that hopefully you like. So you can hit me up. Let me know what's working for you, what's not, what you enjoy, what you want to hear more of. You can find me on Instagram at James E. Rohr. You can email me, pleasurepointspodcast@gmail.com. And you can check out my work as a coach in the love and flow arena at invitinginlove.com. And so without further ado, let's get on with the show. All right, so one of the things that's come up in the channeling work that I've been doing is they keep coming back to this conversation around time. They keep talking about time in different contexts. And so I want to start this episode. I want to give you in this episode the first download that I had around this conversation of time. And we'll just kind of see where this takes us. So here's what they told me. They said, there's no such thing as a mistake, but your ideas of suffering are often tied up in your relation to time. If things take longer or slower, this can become quite a source of angst for you. This is silly. If you could see from our perspective, you would know that time is inconsequential. There just is what is. You arrive at an experience or you don't. You see what is possible or you do not. How long it takes for it to happen is irrelevant to us and to your highest consciousness. But suffering is often directly correlated to time in your species. If a pain happens for a second or an hour, does it matter? You think it does, but it does not. The energy field is zapped, the sensation is elicited, it happened. You heal or you do not. But the story written in the time where things are not how you want them to be, that is where suffering happens. Beware of the joy you feel when something uncomfortable disappears quickly, and do not despair so much when things linger longer than you'd like. You remember, don't you, Jim, how long you were sick for? That time, those hours, all those memories of accommodating, of your fear, of your doubt. Does it matter now that you feel better? Your elation at feeling better erases most of the angst about the time. But when you felt bad, it was the time that kept holding you back. It was the time issue, the not wanting to be so sick at a young age, the wanting to feel better because you had your whole life ahead of you. This relationship to your perception of time created the weight of significance. Liberate yourself from time and find yourself free. Athletes do this also. They focus so much on the window of opportunity that they turn their back on source. They beg and plead to extract help from source that they miss the power that is within the within. Cultivating that flow state, the ecstasy is talked about in that book, Stealing Fire, that you've been reading. Your world has bills to be paid and social norms to be dealt with. but feeling like time is slipping you by or that time is your greatest enemy creates more conflict. So now, if you spend your attention, and notice we don't say spend time, utilize your attention to discover that the great hoax of your culture plays on you is the illusion that your reality is fixed. The indoctrination that reality can't change or you can't change it, or if it does change, that change happens slowly and methodically and by forces outside of your influence, is catastrophic to our goal of expansion of consciousness. You, Jim, realize some of this. Your modern psychology and psychological terms can be helpful to grasp a moment of understanding, to find a temporary handhold that gives you some relief. But that moment changes. The context is different so quickly. The air is different. The water is different. The cells in your body have changed. The energetic frequencies have shifted. The psychic support or interference is also constantly changing. Births and deaths affect the overall aura of the planet. The entire milieu of your body, mind, and spirit is changed. So why do you insist on using psychological terms that categorize and can affix someone to a position within time and space? As we told Alan Watts, who you were yesterday or last year or this morning or 10 minutes ago doesn't have to be who you are now. The dream you want to achieve, you can't do as you are now. You now don't have the capacity for it. You will have to loosen your grip on that one reality. And notice we don't say old reality. That one reality to allow for another to be created, revealed, or arisen. If you keep applying the same terms, the same beliefs, the same energy, you will absolutely get similar results. Because as much as the milieu changes around you, the force field of your fixated mind, the narrowing of your vision, the focus of your attention on the same problem, the same diagnosis, the same prognosis, the same heartbreak, is enough to guard against the possibility of grace to inform your heart and soul. Just as the double helix breaks apart for replication, so must you allow yourself to unzip, to unfold open, to spread apart, so that grace can match with those parts that must be replicated, while omitting that which no longer serves you. Holding tight is refusing this replication. Stiffness, rigidity of mind can keep some alive, and most definitely provides more structure. But we must be willing to explore beyond that structure, to see what is, that things that help large systems to move more harmoniously. What appears to be true for the system is not true for you. You needn't labels, rules, or mental constructs to navigate the inner world. There just is. Allow the tendrils of your consciousness to meet with grace and see what becomes. This clinging to time and to identity is what holds you back. The acupuncture helps to disrupt the identity of self. You're not tonifying what is, you're calling forth a new experience of self, the latent and dormant power of possibility. The pain of a moment can be etched into a psyche to create loops that are hard to break because of one's attention. The event itself is of very little consequence in the cosmic scheme of things. Everything was agreed upon before arriving here. But that might take people longer to realize. You've all agreed to play the game here, and this is why leading with kindness is a good idea. All right, and then they're going to continue on with this conversation in another separate time when the download came, and we started talking about love and types of commitment, but I want to skip that first part to talk here about where they pick up this idea of time. So it continues. They say, once again, the issue is one of time and expectations. When you die, if we were to ask you when you felt most loved, which is a good question for one to prepare to answer upon death because it might motivate you to actually start loving with all your senses. We wouldn't need time as a part of the answer. We want to know the sparks, the moments when you felt it. When did your senses alight with the joy and pleasure and ecstasy? When did you know that you weren't alone and that this life was a gift to be cherished? And you cherish it by being grateful and then living as ferociously as that gale force wind that erodes the mountains, shapes deserts, and carries ashes across oceans. What we will want to know is the moments when you felt it. Whose company were you in? Other humans? Anyone in particular? Maybe several? Were you in nature or with an animal? And if you could carry that feeling with you, where would you put it and what would it look like, feel like, sound like, or smell like? You people are so quick to discount, diminish, or try to erase the spark of passion because you couldn't hold on to it forever. Move on, yes, but don't ever diminish what was. When heartbreak happens, it cannot diminish or erase the feelings that came before. When their touch sent chills down your spine, or when their smell sent a warmth across your belly, or their taste triggered an insatiable desire inside of you, those things happened. Your energy field responded and sent out that wave of euphoria, of blessing through your body and around your community and across the globe. It happened like an atom bomb and can't be changed, diminished, or erased no matter how many ceremonies you do, no matter how much sage you burn, no matter how much you tap on your head and heart. And why would you want to change that? It is part of why you chose to come here. And your consciousness brought that person and moment to you. It was a gift. The problem wasn't that it happened. It's that you attached a desired time to it. You wanted it to last longer or forever. Or maybe you enjoyed some moments, but you say it went on too long. There's no such thing. There's the moment, your senses, and the emanations from your soul. Again, we come back to the issue of time. Perhaps your answer upon your death will be one kiss that happened when you were 17. Or perhaps it'll be that moment of holding your child. Maybe it was with an instrument or a song. Perhaps a chord or frequency struck you just so that you had a break from your timeline of suffering and you realized the preciousness, the timelessness where love lives. This is just as valuable as anything else. Use that to remember yourself and do not diminish it. You can't diminish the feelings you had, but your mind can try to edit and re-edit, cutting out the most valuable moments because they don't fit conveniently into a timeline or they are offensive to another. Do not attempt to diminish oneself. It doesn't matter to us what your answer is, just so long as you have an answer, that you chose to find the love in as many moments as possible. Now, longer-term relationships, your committed partnerships, they can yield other moments of love. Perhaps the moment you cherish comes after 50 years of growth with someone. The touch of the hands one morning as you hear your grandkids playing in the other room. You notice the wrinkles on your flesh, the veins are showing more, but the touch of your partner penetrates deeper than ever. You've created an environmental context where your heart is more open, you are more receptive, and you've chosen to pay attention to this person. That will undoubtedly be a different experience than a passionate night with a stranger. But when death comes, we'll want to know if you celebrated love and feeling, or if you ran from it, tried to suffocate it, or blasphemed it with whining, expectations, and correlating it with time. You might be beginning to realize that the key to a joyful, meaningful life is to stack those moments of love, of passion, of awakened senses together. If you must be beholden to time, make it work for you. Remember those moments of love, of growth, of transcendence. Think fondly of your lovers. Think fondly of those passing moments and the enduring ones that have shaped you. You will see that time is the biggest enemy. Notice that there's nothing in here about being lazy, irresponsible, uncommitted, or disloyal. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Staying true to word creates an integrity and ease of flow in the body that allows your senses to be even more open. You're not creating conflict by lying or being dishonest. When you're not adding extra resistance to a moment, you will be more equipped to meet the external resistance with love, appreciation, and gratitude. And perhaps in the mundanity of daily living, you'll encounter grace and an unexpected euphoric sensation that you'll want to report to us when your physical flesh bag no longer serves you. If everything always went the way you wanted it to, you would get weak and lazy. There would be no resistance to help you get stronger or to trigger a new way of being. You wouldn't explore and you wouldn't ask hard questions. How would you ever find what you're made of? Celebrate that heartache. Rejoice in having put yourself out there to love and be loved. Don't be petty. It doesn't serve you. In fact, pettiness might be the opposite of enlightenment. And then I ask the question, so how do you handle the timelessness with living in a linear time world? And they respond, that's a good question, but you probably won't like our answer. Our response to you is that how you handle it is a choice, just like every other choice you're making. You can embrace that you live in a world with linear time while also being able to dabble in, to explore feelings of timelessness. You can learn to play in both harmonics. You can learn to experience from multiple perspectives. They are of the same note, just different octaves. Both are different expressions of the mystery. If you could create an experience where you moved forward and also stood still, wouldn't you try it? And doesn't the passing of time create an urgency that can dial in your senses? Doesn't it encourage you to be present, to be alert, to take action where otherwise you might be dormant? So when those timelessness experiences do arise, you use them to remember your own godliness. The issue is when you allow time to become an enemy instead of the greatest ally you have. One day your people will transcend this linear time, but then they will face different challenges. For now, make time your ally. Use it wisely, be present in it, and then watch it slow down. See how much joy and delight you can extract from those delicious moments. And when there is pain and sorrow, be at peace, knowing that it will pass. Whew, baby. Yowzas. So there it is. That's a big part of the downloads that I started off getting about time. Let me know what you think about it. Hit me up. Send me messages. I'm on Instagram at James E. Rohr. You can hit me up an email with pleasurepointspodcast@gmail.com and let me know what you're thinking about it. You know, for me, it's pretty intense. I'm definitely, they were right on point there with the relationship to time. And certainly with heartache, that's like a huge one, right? When you're going through a breakup, it's like, oh my God, what happened? And I wish I had more time, or I can't believe they just said to me yesterday this, and today it's this other action, and it's our sort of fixation on time, how things could be such one way one day and it's so different the next. And it's that time piece that really confounds us, and the same thing with healing and grief and recovery, and they say, time heals all wounds. Well, maybe, and maybe not. And, our fixation on time may actually cause more wounds than it actually can heal. And so, with the mentors that I've had, they've really emphasized that everything that happens in our life is based on some way on a suggestion, that we can't escape it, that how we feel, what we see, how we behave in some way, shape, or form was told to us. And, I do my best to pay attention to what these suggestions are of do I want to be liked? Am I sticking up for my rights? Am I just being kind of shitty and petty? What's going on with me? But the idea that what was so cool for me about this download about time was that it really brought to my consciousness this other suggestion just of time and the existence of time. And how, accomplishing things in a certain time period or being fixated on how long it takes something to happen or not happen becomes also like another suggestion and another thing that can control us, that can inhibit the spontaneous and free-flowing expression. I'm obsessed with this idea of flow. And I work, on myself, and I pay attention to be able to embrace this idea of flow. And it's my approach with my love and dating coaching as well, is that it's not just about like, where do you go to meet somebody, but it's how are you flowing? Are you nurturing yourself? Are you able to be engaged in that present moment? Are you able to liberate yourself from some of the shackles of time and needing somebody to be a certain way so that you can flow with it? And that the energy that you're exuding is such that you like it. You like who you are. You like what you're putting out there. And when all of that is in alignment, then everything that we attract and that we see starts to change as well. The irony being is that oftentimes it accelerates, these things start to show up much more quickly because it's not about necessarily how much time it takes. When we are in that state of connection, there can be this spontaneous element where all of a sudden things that you thought might take a long time just start to appear. It's amazing. So I love this idea of liberating yourself from the confines of the time, at the very least being open to it and embracing things like meditation, mindfulness, and even some of the psychedelic experiences that really start to bend our experience of time. And that if you're doing it in a psychedelic situation, that perhaps you can, when everything wears off and you return to your daily life, that you can still choose to interact with time in a way that works for you, where you can slow it down, where you can really allow your senses to awaken in a moment where you can take in so much more information. I read a while ago this research that talked about, this guy was saying that our experience of time seems to be related to brain activity, and that basically when the brain is taking in a whole bunch of new information, that time seems to slow down. And this was part of the explanation as to why when you're young, a month or a year or even a half hour seems to take forever. And when you get older, it seems like time seems to speed up. Well, the idea is that as you get older, the brain has already created these neural chunks or categories where it knows what a siren is. It, knows what the breeze feels like. You flip a light switch, the light turns on. We get used to these kind of things. And so it's not new information that's coming in. So time seems to speed up because we're doing so much kind of unconsciously or through sort of robotic motions. And that part of the way to extend a moment and to slow time down is to bring our awareness back into the present moment, to engage in the world with a level of curiosity that maybe you haven't had ever, or at least in a very, very long time. Look at a leaf and be surprised. Enjoy that, really try to study the taste of water. Take a look around at your environment. Notice the gradations of paint or the coloring that as it dances on the walls. This is where like taking a painting class or drawing class can be so helpful. Or if you're a foodie, it's like you pursue the taste route and, allow yourself to taste all sorts of different things and to bring your awareness into that moment where you're not thinking about, oh my God, what am I going to post about it? What am I going to say about it, months from, or, to my social media audience. You're just going to enjoy the flavors as they are. And this reawakening of the senses is another thing that in this download that they keep talking about. And so I'm sure I'll share that stuff at some point in the future. But I think it's part of it is using the senses to get into this sense of timelessness, of allowing ourselves to experience something that breaks the unconscious programming of just like one day, next day, the next day, the next day, of breaking that hamster in a wheel cycle, to liberate yourself, to be free. So thank you guys so much for being here, for spreading the news about the podcast, for posting those good reviews on iTunes. All of it helps to spread the word. And if you are struggling with your dating life, with your love life, and you're looking to get yourself back into a state of flow, into a state of confidence so that you can attract a great partner and that you can really just show up in the world the way that you want to show up, check out my website, invitinginlove.com. There's a masterclass you can check out. You can book a free call with me. We can dive into what's not working for you. Where aren't you thriving? Where do you want to be? If I think I can help you, I'll let you know about that. If I'm not the best person to help you, I'll point you another direction. I'm here to serve everybody, to be really a servant to love and to energy. And man, I'm just so happy that you guys are here. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you later.